good day. This is Vanessa, aka DJ Bubbles from Black People United for Change. Today is Thursday, and many of us call it Throwback Thursday. So today I want to do a little bit of throwing back today just to kind of explain in further detail why it is so important for members of the Black community here in Ontario to come out on the 11th of April at the Legislative Assembly grounds of Ontario between 1 and 3 to support um, the movement to petition the Legislative Assembly of Ontario to implement anti Black racism laws. Now, when you go to Google, Bing, or however, whatever method you use to search for information, Wikipedia, or what have you, the greatest civil rights activist that we have ever had in Canada on a whole would be Viola Desmond. Viola Desmond, who is the only Black person to ever have her face featured on a Canadian dollar bill. You done know. So her story and her dedication to the civil rights movement in Canada, it all began in, I want to say, in about, I would say, back in the early 1940s, about 1946. She was jailed because she wanted a better seat in a Canadian theater in Glasgow, Canada. She would faced a lot of discrimination like many other blacks in Canada at that time. She couldn't go to school to train to be a beautician in Halifax because of the color of her skin. Not only that, we always associate the US to have a bad history in terms of discrimination and Jim Crow laws. While Canada did not have or implement those Jim Crow laws, we need to remember and understand that racial segregation and discrimination did exist for Black people here in Canada, you know, and without implementing laws specific to the Black population in Canada regarding anti Black and the hatred along with it signifies that the Canadian government refuses to acknowledge what Black people endured, you know what I mean, in Canada. And not to hold those responsible in this day and age for continuing that discrimination that we have faced in Canada since Harriet Tubman arrived with the first batch of slaves that she freed from the US in the early 1800s. It just speaks volumes as to the refusal of each province and our government in Canada on a whole to acknowledge what we've endured as a Black people in this nation. You might want to say, well, what are you talking about? What have you? Well, just remember that in 1850 in Canada, segregated schools were permitted to be in operation. And did you know that the last segregated school in Canada didn't close until 1983? This was well after the school segregation by color stopped in the US, who had Jim Crow laws. I want to let you know that also in 1910, that there were immigration policies that barred Black people from migrating to Canada. We've never received any reconciliation. On top of that, did you know that Black medical students were barred from internships at hospitals? Black women couldn't go to nursing schools. Black students in Canada were denied admission to universities. sounds like a lot of discrimination to me that we faced. You know what I mean? What I want to say is we can never say that there has been any victory for Black people in this country, in Ontario, in any province in Canada, because of the fact that there has never been laws to hold entities like the police, the courthouses, social services accountable for continuing what their ancestors did to Canadians, in Black Canadians here in Canada. You don't know. And we need to bring back the spirit of Viola Desmond, the only known true civil rights activist who stood up in court, who even lost her marriage because of her determination to pave the way for Black people here in Canada. We don't have that anymore. And we need to stand up as a Black people and bring back that true civil rights activism. And it starts on April the 11th at the Legislative Assembly grounds of Ontario. If we can fight this battle province by province, one at a time, we can achieve the true victory of being acknowledged that our people face atrocities. We can't keep hearing those messages of get over it. Well, that was in the US. No, no, no. It was here too, in this country. In Montreal, Black students who had the credentials went to school and studied long and hard, couldn't even do their internships at hospitals because of the color of their skin. Segregated schools that didn't end until 1983. And this was during the apartheid movement in South Africa, which is possibly why Canada didn't do more to help free Nelson Mandela and abolish the apartheid movement in South Africa. Yeah, we're throwing back today because there's a lot that we are not taught. During Black History Month, they just tell the kids, well, Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, what about Canada? What about their guilt and their contribution to the suffering of Black people? There are absolutely no laws specific to the Black Canadians in Canada for all that we have endured since Harriet Tubman came to liberate the Black slaves, our Black brothers and sisters in the US of A. Yes, there are anti-hate laws, but there's nothing specific to Black people among those laws and legislations. And this needs to be changed, because the moment one province says that these anti-hate laws are specific to the Black population, that is when we can declare victory, starting in Ontario. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. We need to bring back activists like the spirit of Canadian Black civil rights activists such as Viola Desmond. It's so missing in our society today. I've been saying every day and imploring the Black community to come out and let us fight together the way Viola Desmond did all by herself in 1946 when she was jailed and charged for tax evasion, because she knew as a human being that she had the right to sit anywhere in any theater regardless of the color of her skin. Please come out April the 11th at 1 p.m., 1 to 3 p.m., and let us bring back the true civil rights activist spirit of Viola Desmond at the Legislative Assembly grounds of Ontario. Have a blessed and wonderful day, And I'm really hoping to see the Black community come out and stand for ourselves. If we don't stand for ourselves, then who will? You don't know. Power to the people.